Big day for Deshaun Watson and his alleged sexual misconduct cases. The Texans quarterback is being deposed in a civil lawsuit against him. Meanwhile, a grand jury may consider possible criminal charges. We've got team coverage of this big story. Our Marcelino Benito live from the Harris County Criminal Courthouse, where that grand jury is meeting, and our Jason Miles is at the office of Watson's attorney for the deposition. So Marcelino, let's start with you.
Well, Sherman, we're told the grand jury was set to convene this morning around 10 a.m. on their plate whether or not to decide whether Deshaun Watson will face any criminal charges in these types of cases. Now, as you well know, in these types of grand jury proceedings, they are highly protected and highly secretive, so it's very difficult to get an exact picture of what's happening behind these doors in the grand jury room from the DA's office. But attorney Tony Busby, who represents the 22 women who have filed civil lawsuits against Watson for alleged sexual misconduct during massages, he tells us several of his clients were subpoenaed to show up and testify this morning before the grand jury. 10 women filed criminal complaints against Watson. 3 of those women specifically alleged sexual assault or attempted sexual assault. Now, the grand jury will decide if Watson will be indicted on any of these cases. Watson's legal team, led by Rusty Hardin, tells us they're delighted that the grand jury is finally taking a look at this. Hardin maintains no crimes were committed and are hoping a decision will come down ahead of the NFL's free agency period. Now, our KHOU legal analyst Carmen Rowe says it's very likely we could see a decision later today, but that could stretch out into Monday. The DA's office, meanwhile, tells us prosecutors will be issuing an on-camera statement once a decision does come down. We'll be standing by for that, and as soon as it does, we'll bring it to you on air and online. Sherman, back to you.
All right, thank you, Marcelino. And Jason Miles joining us with the civil side of all of this and that deposition. Jason?
Hey there, Sherman. Yeah, we did not see the football star himself, Deshaun Watson, arriving here this morning, but did speak briefly with his attorney, Mr. Rusty Hardin, and attorney Tony Busby, who's representing, of course, the numerous women who claim sexual misconduct against Watson. The deposition was set to start around 10 o'clock this morning. I'm told it could last many hours depending on what comes out. Now, take a look at some video. This side of the story, of course, deals with the 2 civil lawsuits filed against Watson, also related to alleged misconduct during massages. Busby was planning to question Watson under oath, something he says he has wanted to do for a while now. But Rusty Hardin, who briefly stopped, as I mentioned, for a moment this morning on his way into his office, told us he intended to have Watson plead the Fifth, mainly because the same facts are still at issue before that criminal grand jury. Here's what Busby had to say on his way in.
The 2 women that we're going to talk about have not made any criminal complaint. There should be no reason whatsoever he can't answer questions about what happened. He's already admitted in sworn answers that the massage sessions occurred. He claims that they tried to set up sessions after, which is a lie. And so we're going to explore that.
I asked Busby about Watson potentially pleading the Fifth to all of his questions. He said, quote, "Someone doesn't need to do that unless you've got something to hide or have done something wrong." Now, most parties agree that it's highly coincidental that both of these procedures are happening simultaneously on this side of downtown and the other side of downtown where the criminal courthouse is. Of course, we will be watching developments today and bring you all the latest. Reporting live from Houston Center in downtown Houston, Jason Miles, KHOU 11 News.
A very interesting coincidence, Jason. All right, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. No criminal charges for Deshaun Watson. Today, the Texans quarterback was cleared by a grand jury.
But his legal battles are not over. He's still facing more than 20 civil lawsuits accusing him of sexual misconduct with massage therapists. Our Grace White was there when Watson broke his silence about the case. Grace, what did he have to say?
Deshaun Watson told us he knows this is far from over, but today he says was a big day, and it was the first time we'd heard from him in more than a year.
I just first want to say it's definitely a very emotional moment for me.
An emotional Deshaun Watson speaking for the first time after a Harris County grand jury declined to indict him. There were 9 criminal complaints alleging sexual misconduct. Grand jurors no-billed him on all of them.
I'm going to keep fighting to rebuild my name and rebuild my appearance in the community.
And the fight now heads to civil court. While the grand jury was meeting, civil depositions for 2 women accusers took place. Their attorney, Tony Busby, took issue with Watson pleading the Fifth.
What it's been is hide the ball from the very beginning, and to suggest that he didn't answer questions because he was going to incriminate himself for some proceeding that's completely separate from this is not credible.
But that will end next week, says Watson's attorney, Rusty Hardin.
I have said all along that when the criminal investigation was completed, we would answer their question.
And to the fans who may have lost faith in him, the NFL quarterback says he's ready to get back on the field.
I still love my fans, even the ones that believe the other side or whatnot, but at the same time, things are, happen for a reason, and people are entitled to their own opinions. But, today, justice was served for us.
The depositions will continue Tuesday, those for 2 of the 22 women who have filed civil lawsuits. Grace White, KHOU 11 News.
Deshaun Watson hasn't played a single down of professional football since the end of the 2020 regular season. But now that the specter of criminal charges are behind him for now, that might change. Matt Musil joins us with what the future could hold for the star quarterback.
That's right. Now that Deshaun Watson and his agents know that no criminal charges will be brought against him, I think there's going to be a red-hot trade market for Deshaun Watson. There are quite a number of NFL teams that could be interested in trading for Watson. My top 3 teams who could use Watson's talents: the Minnesota Vikings, who could very well move on from Kirk Cousins with a new head coach; the Seattle Seahawks, who just traded away Russell Wilson to the Denver Broncos, of course; and the Carolina Panthers, who've been interested in Watson from day one. And there are several other teams who could also use Watson's talents at quarterback, and he could wind up with any one of them. Now, Watson would have to waive his no-trade clause to make a deal happen, but with everything that's gone down over the past year, you would think that Deshaun would be more than motivated to do so. And if it's true that timing is everything, then the timing of today's news seems to be working out great for both Deshaun Watson and the Texans. That's because the NFL's new business year begins next week, and a flurry of deals are expected to be made. The Texans, remember, are hoping to get a haul of high draft picks and a top player or 2 in exchange for Watson. Guys, I think business is about to pick up big time for the Texans.
Today, we presented 9 criminal complaints for consideration by the grand jury. Beginning at 9 o'clock this morning, we presented evidence for over 6 hours for the grand jury to consider, as well as having witnesses available for those persons to testify in front of the grand jury. And the grand jury considered all of that evidence and returned 9 no bills against Deshaun Watson involving these 9 criminal complaints. We respect the grand jury's decision, and that's what happened today. And so we respect that, and we can conclude the criminal proceedings in Harris County.
Can you say
Thank you.
And in the NFL, a major legal victory for Houston Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson. A grand jury there decided not to indict the football star on 9 criminal sexual assault accusations. However, Watson still faces civil lawsuits from 22 women accusing him of sexual assault and misconduct. After the verdict, the 26-year-old said justice was served and that he is ready to get back on the field. Watson sat out the 2021 season, but is considered to be one of the most talented quarterbacks still in the NFL.